I want to welcome you to our next session at the Cape Health Tech Week. We are honored to have you and definitely gaining some great insights from our key speakers today. I want to encourage all the participants to please drop any questions that you might have for the panel. This will be a very nice live panel discussion in the Q&A box. And we will certainly get to those if you have any key questions. So we are waiting for one of the key speakers to still join us. He'll most probably join us a bit late, but we will carry on with William Mapper and Zula Fearon today. They are joining us from VulaMobile as well as LocumBase, are their companies, and I look forward to hearing about them. So just to give you an overview of the morning and how the session will be structured, I will ask each company to do an introduction on and share a little bit of their story so that you can get an idea of who they are and what they've done and how they've achieved where they are at the moment. And then we'll do a nice Q&A session. So if you've got any questions that you would like to ask them, feel free to post those questions in the chat. I have to say that working within the health tech sector, these entrepreneurs are really the heroes of today, and they are the companies that will generate new products for all of us that affect all our healthcare going forward, and also be able to employ people. So that's one of the crucial things that Western Cape is focused on, job creation and product exports. So very exciting. But without any further ado, I think, William, we will kick off with you. Just to give you a bit of a background, William is very passionate. Passion is improving health systems in South Africa, with experience ranging from providing specialist healthcare as an ophthalmologist, providing healthcare in rural areas, and using technology to improve healthcare. He is most excited about the opportunity to work with partners to improve access to healthcare. Vula is an app-based professional medical network that connects rural healthcare with specialists. I know that William also worked within the provincial health department previously, and Vula has achieved many, many awards that I'm sure that he will speak to you about. William, over to you, and if you don't mind switching on your camera for the session.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Hi, can you hear me?
Hi, Will, good to see you.
Hi, today. They've just started building next door, which I wasn't expecting. So perhaps, Sule, you'd like to go first. I'm gonna go and find another place to sit down.
Sure, I don't mind. The joys of work from home and Zoom meetings. Mandy, if that's fine with you?
That's fine. We are virtual, so we can just switch tactics very quickly. Thanks for that update, William. Okay, Zule, so we'll jump to you rather. And just to give you guys a bit of an overview, she is quite a seasoned traveler, which has explored multiple destinations and gained varied work experience in consumer sector industries, in England, Seychelles, as well as the Mediterranean, sales and promotion in UK and South Africa, and traveled and volunteered quite abroad, quite extensively. After building and moving on from small entrepreneurial projects, her true commercial ventures began with OV Optics, a business that distributed unbreakable children's sunglasses and promotes awareness of the importance of UV eye protection for kids. Her partner being a locum optometrist, and her interaction with optometrists, pharmacists, and general practitioners using the OV Optics highlighted the need for a solution in the locum space. And this is how LocumBase was born. Zule, over to you.
That was quite an intro. Thank you so much. Let me just start my video here. There we go. Hi. Thank you for having me. Thank you for the invite. Yeah, I'm pretty much the opposite of Will from VulaMobile when it comes to building something in the medical space. I would say I am a student of the world, hence all the traveling, and I don't think I would have been able to sit still for the 8 to 10 years it takes to have become an ophthalmologist, like Will. So my journey to LocumBase is a very entrepreneurial, solutionist based one. As that intro pretty much explained very well, is that I traveled a lot. It was my university was the world, and I am constantly on a mission to learn as much as I can and to learn as much about people as I can. You know, being forever curious, and a natural solutionist, wanting to fix things when I see they can be fixed, or wanting to optimize things, whether it's a space or a project or service. I have this insatiable need to solve problems when I see them. And as you mentioned, small entrepreneurial projects. I would say small entrepreneurial projects started a long time ago in grade 2, when I sold pencils to my friends, and made some money that way. I had way more Snoopy money than anyone else. So a natural entrepreneur, a natural tendency to want to bring value is something that drives me, and the way that drive is put into LocumBase is ultimately to empower medical professionals, and private medical practices, public clinics, public hospitals, private hospitals, for locums, which is the freelance medical professionals, to earn their worth and to have flexibility and more control over their own earnings and where and how they work, and then for practices or to optimize their business, as and when you need to, right? Solving problems such as having an overflow of patients but not being able to handle all of them, or needing a stand-in because somebody is sick or your primary practitioner can't be there. And it's such a simple solution was needed when we really noticed this problem, or when I had that opportunity to notice the problem from both sides. You know, it's simply connecting people, and essentially that's how all problems are solved. Connecting people to work together, just like, you know, partnerships are necessary, and in our mission as LocumBase, building that partnership with medical professionals and practices is very important, not only to help people work better, but also to keep our medical professionals in South Africa, in Africa, to have a conduit whereby we can distribute skills, to areas that need it more, on intermittent basis, so people don't have to, you don't have to hire somebody every time you need space filled, and ultimately who benefits? Ultimately, business can grow, people, medical professionals can earn better, and ultimately patients benefit, and that's the mission. That's the mission we're all on, I suppose. Bettering the medical space as a whole. Feel free to jump in with some questions. These types of Zoom meetings are always a bit strange, where you kind of just feel like you're talking to yourself. So any reactions would be great, or any waves in the chat would also be good.
Zula, I think if I can jump in here quickly, can you tell us a little bit of your history of how you started. What was that first step that you took to registering your business and then selling your business, identifying who your markets, who did you try and sell your platforms to? What was that journey like? And where did you get support throughout your journey? Like, who were those key guys that actually came and looked at your business and believed in your business the way that you did?
Wow, you can't do anything alone. Let's say that, but you often think you have to, and you often begin on your own. But from the very beginning, you know, Tanya, my partner, the optometrist, we recognized this opportunity quite early on before we actually made the decision to go for it. You know, like, go for it. Let's build something. Let's begin to build something big here. The first thing is you need to ask people if they want what you want to build. You know, I often see products or services or products or services that are cool to have or very interesting, but are there a solution? And I think that is an important part of beginning something. And I think especially in a country like South Africa, is what you want to sell a solution? And then you need to go ask the people who you're making the solution for if they think it's a solution. And you know, constantly get feedback from the people who are your intended audience, your intended clients. So, you know, that's the best advice that I can give on starting something, and that you must early on go ask the grumpiest person that you know. Don't ask your mom, don't ask your sister. Ask the grumpiest person you know if what you want to do, what do they think of it? And if that is a solution in their space, go ask some more people. Before you've put a lot of time and a lot of money and a lot of effort into something, really just find out if people want it. Because at the beginning, you're probably going to be using your own money. We put in a lot of our life savings when we started this, and that also speaks to your belief in your own product or your own service or the startup that you're beginning. So first you have to be your own supports. You know, registering a company is very easy. I mean, you can go to CIPC right now and register a company for like 300 Rand or something, and it takes about 3 days, if that. So registering a company, I would say, is quite a commitment, because you've put something down now, and you've decided to make something official. If you write stuff down, you write goals down, you're way more likely to achieve them. And writing one down like that is quite a big one, because it's lots of paperwork, and who likes paperwork? So if you're going to commit some time to that paperwork, then you've made a commitment. But from there, for me, being a non-technical founder on a mission to build a technical tool that is a solution for a problem in a niche space, I needed to do a lot of talking to people in this market. So I went to the pharmacists, I went to the optometrists, and I asked them, is this something you would want to use? And early on, we got a lot of yeses. And once we got those yeses, and yes, we want to figure out and help you figure out how this would work, the mission then was to find a partner that could help me with the technology, because I can't code like I needed code. And at that time, we didn't have money to pay somebody. I didn't have money to hire somebody to code this machine that we wanted to build. Before you build anything, remember to make basic prototypes. You know, if we're looking at website technology or platform technology or software as a service, it's very dangerous to go all in very early on. Make prototypes, make examples, go ask people about it, change it, make it better, until you get to that place where you're really sure, cool, this is a fit for the people and the businesses. And in our case, there's two sides of essentially a marketplace. We came to a place where we made partners, and making or building a partnership or deciding on starting a partnership is something that you have to take time thinking about, especially early on in a business where you're taking on a partner that may take equity in the business because they're working essentially for free. So now they're a partner, right? In the business is successful, they get their percentage that they deserve because of the work that they put in, the sweat, so sweat equity. So partnerships are very important. In our case, we needed a tech partner. And moving from there, you need to ask a lot of people who know things that you don't. I would say in our first year that I came to Cape Town, I mean, I'm not from Cape Town, we moved here. And in the first year we moved here, I made it my job to get to know people in the space, in the tech space, in the startup space, people who could help me. I don't come from a business, a formal business background or a corporate experience, years of figuring out how to go up on a ladder, corporate ladder. I don't come from that space. So I needed assistance in figuring out how to do the businessy side of making a solution into a business. And read a lot of books and ask a lot of people, get to know a lot of people, and you will find the ones that you connect with, the ones that you gel with, and ask questions. You will find that the people that you connect with and that give time to you are the ones that really want to help you. They want you to build what it is you want to build and want to help you grow. And there are going to be people who say, no, they don't really have the time for you, and that's also okay. Because then those just aren't the people who are supposed to help you get to where you need to go. But don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to ask for help, even if you think, oh, I could never email that guy. Go out, go to events. I mean, right now, go to events, you can't really, but when we can again, or even in an event like this, reach out. Partnerships are good to begin, early on, and you can learn so much from others, and hopefully you can also, contribute to their success and their learning. So that's a piece of advice I would give. Don't be afraid to ask for help from others. It's the quickest way you learn. The quickest way to learn.
Thank you, Zule. That's certainly true. And I think one of the takeaways is you need to put yourself out there and ask. If you don't ask for assistance or ask for help, it's not necessarily going to come to you offered on a silver platter. So thanks very much for sharing some of that story of yours. I'm going to pause with you for a moment and move over to William. William, we've already done your introduction, and I hope that you are in a quiet room and able to take up the baton here from Zule and give us a little bit of your story. When did VulaMobile start? How did it start? And who were some of your key support players throughout your entrepreneur journey? Over to you, William.
Thanks so much. It's Dr. William Mapham, the CEO of VulaMobile. As you can see from my shirt, I'm from the Eastern Cape and very passionate about improving rural healthcare, and eventually specialized in ophthalmology. And so I've experienced the pain of being both a rural doctor without any specialist support, as well as being a specialist with a huge patient load and seeing many patients that could have been helped at a primary care setting. Vula is named after the VulaMobile eye clinic in Swaziland, where I volunteered for 10 months. And we used to drive 4 hours at a time to do outreach. And I then realized that actually the rural health workers had better phones than me. Phones were seen as a status symbol. And why weren't we using technology to save us all this driving time and to improve care for patients? So in 2014, we launched Vula, at that stage just for ophthalmology. In 2016, we started expanding into other specialties. It's now available in 53 specialties, and it's used by 80 types of health worker. And I'm very proud to say that the team last year won Best Health Solution in South Africa from MTN, beating Discovery into second place. So that was very satisfying. And then this year has been mostly focused on COVID. So we were part of a team that raised 2 million Rand to get protective equipment to health workers before the government was able to mobilize their supplies. We also launched the Doctors on Call helpline with some partners. And this helped about 40,000 patients nationally both get advice from doctors as well as getting free COVID testing. And now we've been looking at the referrals to and from the COVID facilities, as well as getting free COVID testing for all health workers using the system. So we really specialized on the communications between health workers and the referrals between facilities. It's quite a unique space in healthcare. And the studies from Stellenbosch University show that when Vula is used, in 30% of the cases, the health worker can actually learn from the specialist and manage the patient remotely. So an example of this is Sister Elise Turnison, who's in Vredendal, which is about 4 hours north of Cape Town. And she was one of the first Vula users, and she learned case by case. And eventually she stopped referring because, in her words, she knew what to do now. And she now accepts referrals from health workers in her area. And she used the data to motivate for an eye clinic in Vredendal. It's now there. And once a month, a surgeon goes to operate for her rather than all those patients coming through to Cape Town. So it's been a very satisfying project to work with. And then in South African terms, we've already focused on employing a diverse team. So quite unusually for a tech company, we actually slightly more female than male, and employing more Black people than white people. So we've really focused on having a really strong, diverse team. And in terms of partnerships, as Zulay said, you can't deliver healthcare without partnerships. That's what it's all about. So we've partnered with the provincial departments of health, with all the heads of departments using Vula. So there are currently 16,000 health workers registered on Vula. And every month, approximately 4,000 use it at least once to make a referral or to get advice about a patient. So yeah, we've got a lot of partners over the last few years, and that for me is one of the exciting parts of healthcare. And especially this year during COVID, we saw huge spikes in public-private collaborations, especially in June and July. So I think in a way, COVID has shown us how we can deliver a national health insurance in a practical way. And it's really opened some of the doors to many partnerships that perhaps were open before, but not really, there weren't that many people going through them. So I think really excited about the future. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Great, thanks, William. I think one just immediate question from me. What skills did you have to learn on your journey? What is it that you didn't maybe know when you started and you had to gain these skills as you were going through your journey?
That's a good question. I think Zulay said, like, you know, I think I was lucky in a way. I wasn't perhaps a typical medical student. I was quite into drama, so we used to produce plays to make money, and I went to the Graham Sound Festival and to Edinburgh Festival as well while I was a student. So my marks weren't as good as they could have been, but I learned a lot of things on the side. And that led to working in media after my rural years. And when I was working in media, I saw that cell phones were becoming a form of mass media. So went to the US to work for startups developing mobile phone applications for healthcare. So I think just by kind of following the course of the world, really, you pick up some skills. But if you look at design skills, app development skills, those are things that I'm not the best at. And I guess for me, I can learn as much as I like, but for me, it's more important to find experts and work with them. And then I think some of the sort of big learning curves have been on the business side. Like, sure, you can make a good solution, but how do you make it make money? How do you run a business? How do you employ different people? How do you hire people? and been very fortunate to have some really good mentors in that regard. So yeah, I've been very lucky in that, and then also learning how to partner with companies. So for example, we won a prize in Paris called Africa Tech, and the prize was the chance to have a contract with Sanofi, which is a multinational pharmaceutical company. And it took 6 months of learning how to work with a multinational company. And we formed a partnership with them, focused on TB, psychiatry, and endocrinology. And for me, that was a huge learning curve, learning how a small startup can partner with a big company. So yeah, I think that was one of my biggest learnings over the last year or two.
Thank you. Interesting indeed. We have to reinvent ourselves and learn new things on the go all the time, I suppose. Thank you, William. I'm going to pause with you and come back later when we have the full panel discussion. And I want to jump over to Dr. Morena Makona. He holds the CEO officer at Biovac Institute since 2004. His mandate is to realize the objective of building a vaccine manufacturing capacity in Southern Africa. Biovac, I don't know if you got read up about it, but they are quite a large vaccine manufacturer based in South Africa. And they produce capabilities in human vaccine manufacturing. It has a vision and a mission to establish a sustainable world-class international African vaccine manufacturing to protect lives through the development and manufacture supply of much needed vaccines. During Morena's tenure at Biovac, he has secured successful technology transfers with global pharmaceutical companies such as Sanofi and Pfizer, and we hope to hear more about those. Morena is a medical graduate from University of Cape Town, and he has participated in senior executive courses from both Stanford Graduate School of Business and Harvard Business School. He is also serves as the chairperson of the South African College of Applied Sciences. Morena, we are honored to have you, such a big player in the room, and we look forward to your story at Biovac and what you had to go through in terms of achieving the success that you are experiencing at the moment.
Thanks, Mandy, and thanks for the invitation. You know, listening to William when there was knocking behind his wall. William, you're not the only one. I've been trying to extend and have a study at home, and that has been my life for the past couple of weeks. Hopefully it will be quiet with me today for now. So yeah, and just a bit of background, I'm at home. So this is my son's bedroom that I'm at the moment hijacking as a study until our study is done. So maybe a bit about me. As Mandy said, I'm Morena. I'm Joburg born. I was born in Soweto. And after high school in Soweto, I came to Cape Town, to UCT, to study medicine. And I then went back to Johannesburg to do my internship. And with community service, I was then thrown at the Free State at a small town called Heilbron. For those of you that don't know it, it's about an hour and a half from Johannesburg and just past Sasolburg. So for me, home being Johannesburg, it was not too bad to be thrown there. I went there kicking and screaming like all medical graduates are in terms of getting out of the urban environment. And I'll tell you why I'm telling you this story, because it has essentially enabled, or it was one of the enablers in terms of management. So I was in the Free State at Heilbron, not only for the year that I was supposed to be, you know, it was compulsory community service, but I ended up staying an additional year because I enjoyed it so much. So Heilbron is a very small town. Everybody knows everybody. I used to drive a Gold City Golf, and everybody would know, oh, that's Dr. Mahwana. So, you know, it's that type of dorky. But the nice thing about small towns is that they are very small, they're very intimate, but they also, it's very personal. And compared to one coming from a large city like Johannesburg, but also having trained at a large hospital like Grooteskier and a lot of its affiliates, going to a small town was very humbling, I must say. And what I enjoyed about it is not only because it gave me a little bit of breathing space in terms of just thinking what I want to do, but it also allowed me an opportunity that I probably wouldn't have had at the time of managing other people. So towards the end of my community service, my senior at the time left the hospital, our hospital, for actually a registrar post at Grooteskier. He's now a professor in dermatology. He then left me in the middle of my community service and went to be a registrar post. And essentially, it was 3 community service doctors that were there, actually 2, and 1 actually emigrated just before they completed. So I was essentially left on my own towards the end of my community service. I then was asked to stay for an additional year, and I thought, well, where am I rushing to? I'm enjoying it anyway. And I decided to stay for another year. And that year was quite important for me because then I was then in charge of the new community service guys that were coming in, and also it extended to physiotherapists and others. And why I'm telling you this story is because that was sort of my first taste of management. As many of you may know that, you know, in the medical field does not necessarily equip you for some of those things. And so it was my first taste of managing people and looking after that. I knew already in medical school that I was unlikely to be a doctor. Not that I hated medicine, but I knew that I was just not going to die practicing as a medical doctor. So I was always interested in the commercial side of healthcare, but I was not sure where I'll end up, whether I'll be in medical schemes, whether I'll be, you know, in pharmaceuticals. I had no particular destination in mind. But I knew that I was probably going to be in clinical medicine for probably 10, 15 years, after which I will probably branch out to something commercial. What I was not, what was to my big surprise was through a link of a link of a link, there was a company called Biovac that I had no knowledge of. That was a very tiny company then, and they needed a medical officer to come and work. They had lost a medical officer 18 months prior to me joining in 2004. And for that 18 months, they were not sure whether they do actually need a medical person or not. All pharmaceutical companies have some medical affairs people, and they were not sure until they decided to actually have somebody join in. So I actually joined the industry much earlier than I even anticipated. And as you can imagine, you know, always wanting to get into the commercial side of life was something that I was excited about. I joined, the office was still in Johannesburg. Biovac had just started, they had just taken over the old State Vaccine Institute, which had essentially ceased production. They were not producing anymore. So Biovac inherited this old asset in Pinelands and needed to revive it. My boss at the time, Selon Kahanovitz, was running Biovac, and he actually took a lot of the brunt of starting something new. So I can't claim that I'm an entrepreneur from having done that. I've certainly learned from others that were running it. I was based in Johannesburg. He was also based in Johannesburg, and he was going up and down, you know, looking after this small industrial site in Pinelands. And I was doing medical affairs, which is essentially advising the company in terms of what to do with its clinical trials, pharmacovigilance, or all the other things. It was becoming, so Biovac was growing a bit. It was the first 5 years of Biovac. It was very tough. I mean, it was tough. There was no funding. We actually realized that what we were taking on was quite a big task, you know. Very few of us knew actually what it takes to set up a biotech company. And I think we learned, you know, as we actually got into it. And I wasn't in the front line, as I said. I was, you know, sitting in an office in Johannesburg, looking after the medical side of vaccines. But because it was a small company, it provided me an opportunity, particularly because even in the office in Johannesburg, it was a very small office. Everybody knew what everybody was doing. And so it allowed me, and I must say that I was also quite blessed to have a boss at the time that gave me the freedom to follow him around, whenever they would go and discuss or come to Cape Town. And so one would actually learn even outside of my core job description, which was quite satisfying for me. But as Biovac was growing and was trying to get its feet in its first stage, and the first stage is probably the first 5 years, it was also becoming now a slightly big animal that was quite difficult to manage from Johannesburg. The group also was growing. It was also going to other businesses outside of vaccines. It was going to look at pharmaceuticals and other medical devices. And they needed to be focused to say that somebody must look after vaccines while somebody looks after the rest of the group at the time. What then happened is that in 2008, I was then 2 months before I got married, I was approached by my boss at the time, Selin, and the other executives, who said, Morana, don't you think that you should go down to Cape Town? You're young, you're unmarried, just about to get married. Just go there for 3 years, stabilize the operations in Cape Town, and come back. As a typical Joburg boy, you think, oh, well, I've been in Cape Town, I studied in Cape Town, let me go down there and come back. So I came down 2008, in March of 2008, shortly after getting married with my new wife at the time. Thought that it would be a short stint and then I'll go back. What was intimidating at the time for me was that I was going to look after a manufacturing plant. I mean, what do I know about manufacturing plants? Selin was still the CEO, but I was at least had that support. And I was on site learning about what it takes to run a factory. We had an operations person, but I was probably more on the commercial. So I was learning a little bit about how a biotech company should be run and the challenges that come with it. So I was sort of like trying to take away from my CEO at the time, Selwyn, and what was happening in between. So it was quite a steep learning curve for me. As the group grew and it was focusing on other things, then the opportunity to run Biovac then came in 2010. And so I was then appointed CEO, and that's sort of where I, started accelerating the foundation that was laid. So listening to many people about, how they start business, I certainly don't know how to start a business. I'd like to start a business one day, but I actually don't know how to. But I think the lessons that one has learned is, if somebody has laid a foundation, how do you take it forward and take it up? And so the past 10 years that I've been at Biovac have been extremely rewarding, extremely challenging at the same time. At the time that I was appointed, or maybe, 2010, I was already down in Cape Town, but in 2008, we were still raising funds. We hadn't signed up any tech transfer. We actually didn't know whether Biovac was going to survive for any much longer. But through the support of my mentors, but also just for me to zoom out, take a look at what we're actually doing, and understanding that the vaccine game is actually a global game. There are no vaccine manufacturers locally. You may have heard that Aspen is now entertaining it in terms of COVID. But only now, but we've been added. So it's a global game. So the question is, how does one form a local company or build a local company, knowing that we're working in a global space? And once we figured that out, to say we are local, but we're actually in a global space, it's sort of like, it sounds quite simple now, but that's where actually everything now sort of started falling. So we knew that we needed to build world-class facilities in order to attract world-class partners that Mandy has described, the likes of Sanofi and Pfizer. And we needed to make sure that we have high-class people. So we needed to raise the bar. So as you can imagine, from any startup, your costs are rising, you're not generating much. You need to build everything in world-class and hoping that everything will work out. And that's what we've been doing, and that's what we'll probably be doing for quite a while. So if I can maybe just share one slide, Mandy, in terms of just my journey and where I picked up. Let me just see if I can share screen. So I'll just try and see. just as a summary of the picture that I'm painting, if it has come up.
It's live. Thanks, Marina.
Is it coming up? It's not moving
Yeah.
on my. I'm not sure. It looks like it's stuck a bit. Where's my computer stuck? And that's not the slide I was actually focusing on. Okay,
if you want to stop share and then just try to reshare.
Start again. Yeah. Just have a look at. Anyway, no, I think my computer is frozen. But I think the point that I was going to illustrate that I can make verbally is that Biovac has been in existence now for 17 years, which sounds like a long time, but in the vaccine game, we are actually a baby. And if you segment, it in waves. So there was a first wave, the first chapter that my predecessor Selwyn really started up. Without that, I probably wouldn't have been able to build on that. I then took on what you can call the second chapter of Biovac. But then with that, you need to recognize that that the business will need to evolve into a third and a fourth chapter. And with that, then one needs to realize that at a particular time, you either are not the right person to run it, or that the team needs to evolve if the team is not growing with the company. And that's one of the lessons that one has learned, that we've had to make some painful changes as well because the guys that start with you may not be able to be the guys that take you towards the next level. And if you're cognizant of that level of growth that you need, either you must give way, or on another, you must be having a team that can be able to grow. So the team that you start with may not be the team that you end up with. We always hope that they will, but it always doesn't happen in that way. And so, we are now looking forward to our fourth wave that we're trying to reestablish. And that's a wave that hopefully Biovac will be a lot more international than it has been now. That's not easy. It's a new space. It's daunting, but we have to go through it. And so, yeah, I just wanted to illustrate, but through just a simple slide about the fact that, one goes through various waves in building a company, which is not easy. But yeah, maybe let me pause here, Mandy.
Thank you very much. Very, very useful insights there from growing a business. And even, I like what you said, not starting it, but taking over from someone else's foundation and then still making sure that you grow the business is also a challenge indeed. I'm going to ask that the panel members all share their videos for this Q&A sessions, and just to invite the participants to come in and ask questions indeed. While you're still thinking and typing your questions, I have one, and something that comes through on all your presentations or inputs is that funding is always a big requirement. Money makes money, and for you to grow as a business, there's always some funds that you need to access. So my question to you, and maybe William will jump to you, and then you can jump in as the rest as you please. But what has been your funding need so far? Did it take your own investment to start the business, or were you lucky to get an investor to believe in your product from the get-go? And what has been the total amount of funds, just from a ballpark figure, that this company has actually needed in terms to grow to where it is at the moment?
Yeah, so I think we were very fortunate at the beginning of our journey. For the first 3 years, we won a series of competitions that basically bankrolled our business. We won about 6 million rands worth of prize money during that time. However, after that, we did need to bring on investors. So we had a crowd-funded campaign where only restricted to medical professionals, and they were able to buy in sort of micro shares into Vula. These are typically people who would never have bought equity before on a normal trading desk or anything like that. So you're talking about nurses, pharmacists, and some doctors. And then this year, we just closed a funding round of $1 million with a combined local international investing group. So we had the Harambee Entrepreneur Alliance Prosperity Fund, which is a group of African entrepreneurs. We've had For Entrepreneurs, which is a South African based fund. as well as with the DRK Foundation, which is based in the US, and Enza Capital, again, African-focused, based funder in Africa. So yeah, we've been very fortunate to raise that money literally in the last few months, and that's to help us grow both in terms of impact as well as in terms of revenue. So we might do another fundraising round next year, which will probably be in the region of about $2 to $5 million.
I just have to jump in here and just say to Will, well done, well done. It's hard to raise money, and it's that, yeah, well done, Will. That's awesome.
Thanks.
And the thing is, it's like money. It's not just about money makes money. It's money provides opportunity to make impact. I think that's the type of entrepreneurs we are. We want money to make impact, but it needs to make money too. But yeah, well done.
Having
well
a system, a lot of us know each other, so it's a nice health tech ecosystem in South Africa, and so yeah, it's nice to always chat to Delay when we have a chance. And I think it's also choose your investors wisely. Choose your investors who will add value. We have been burnt a couple of times before, so we're very, very selective now about who invests in Vula.
Thanks, William. Zule, do you want to jump in here and answer the same question?
When we started out, we used our own money, but that also, you can push as far as you can before you need to. Sorry, my cat just fell off something over there. You can only push as far as you can, but that's the thing. You have to push as far as you can on your own, because raising money is not the goal, right? Like when you look at it on a business side, raising money is not the goal. You want to make money, but if you're going to grow something big and you want to have the biggest impact that you can, then raising money is a must. We raised a good angel round early on, about a year after we started testing our prototype. Choosing your investors is a very important element that I don't think anybody really understands how important until you make a mistake. So for anyone out there doing a funding round and trying to raise investment, that should be your very first tick box. You have to have a true believer, and a believer in your mission and your cause, and not just a believer in, hey, let's make some money. So yeah, same as Will there, in the sense of really choose your investors wisely and never make a decision out of desperation. So we raised an angel round where we made 2 great decisions and one not so great decision. But yeah, where we sit now, the decisions, if you run into a challenge, you figure out a solution. It's what you do. So where we sit now, we've got some excellent partners. We recently closed a convertible round with E Squared, which is the fund that's all about making impact. We also have Josie Angels in the same round. Josie Angels is a Johannesburg-based angel network. Yeah, so we are actually quite early on in our funding or raising journey. We have, I would say, yeah, it's been about 5 million rand that we've raised, which is actually quite little in the bigger scheme of things, but it is a lot of money for where we've come. And the thing is, like, it's not just money. Like when you think about raising money, you're not just raising money from investors. You're getting their expertise. You're getting their who they are and what they can bring, especially early on, is actually more about that value than the money value. So again, in the early stages, that is a big tick box. a big tick box that needs to be filled. But yeah, raising funding is hard. It really is a difficult thing. And again, you know, in this weird entrepreneurship place, it's all about resilience and not stopping. Because if you believe enough, then others believe enough, and you'll find the right people. You just don't stop.
Thanks, Zule. I see, unfortunately, we've lost Morena. We'll hopefully to get him back online to answer the questions. In the time left, I really want to focus on some of the participant questions. William, I see you have nominated yourself to answer one of the questions, and I'll just quickly read it out. They're saying, thanks very much for everyone's advice and sharing your experiences. What were or are the challenges of your product implementation in the health regulation language barrier that you faced that you did not expect?
I think we're quite lucky in terms of language in South Africa because Vula is already used in several languages. Luckily, there's kind of a common language in medicine. So for example, if you say BP, typically people understand that means blood pressure. So there are multiple medical acronyms that generally people learn at medical school. I think what also has been quite interesting in terms of, not really surprising, but it's great to see that South Africa is taking their legislation around patient privacy and security of information very seriously. And in a way, we're following what they've done in Europe and America. So there's things in America called HIPAA. In Europe, it's called GDPR, and here it's called POPIA. So there's different legislations that we must adhere to. And yeah, we take that very seriously. So I wouldn't call it unexpected, but something that is a requirement to work in this space.
Morena, you missed the question, but I'll just repeat it.
Okay, apologies for that. I lost the link. Yeah.
No, welcome back. That's fine. What has been some of the challenges in terms of implementing the products that you are selling within the health regulation and the language barrier that you did not expect necessarily as you are partaking in your journey?
Okay, and I saw there was a question also, yeah, I think about regulatory. So as everybody can imagine, you know, vaccines are highly regulated. I mean, probably, you know, the most regulated of pharmaceutical products. So the safety and everything else that goes in globally, it's quite challenging. I think what we found as Biovac is that our regulator hadn't, whilst they register a lot of products locally, being SAPRA, it took them, you know, we undertook our first GMP audit in 2013. And I think that they probably had about more than 20 years that they hadn't inspected a local company. They had inspected others, but they hadn't inspected a local company. So we found ourselves at a point where they were not sure because they were going to need to put their label first to say, you know, SAPRA has now approved Biovac. Whereas when they go to elsewhere, US, India, England, they're putting their stamp when the other regulatory authority has already put the first stamp. Whereas with us, it was they needed to, you know, put their, you know, their fingerprint first, and that was quite daunting. I think, certainly on our side and the regulator, we have found ourselves working much closer with SAPRA. We've had our second and third audit. It's gotten a bit closer, but it's been quite challenging. It was quite challenging in the beginning because they didn't understand us. We didn't understand how they would look closely. So the regulatory space was quite challenging if you had asked me, you know, 5 years or so ago. But in terms of the actual product, we follow the standard product that whether it's imported or not. So the implementation of the product and how it is in the facility is no different to an imported product. So, you know, in terms of, I mean, where we are a little bit more intimate, you know, as a company and even with our partners is we work closely with the Department of Health in making sure that the vaccine program runs smoothly. You know, the last thing we want, yes, we are in business and yes, we're manufacturing vaccines, but ultimately our heart is in making sure that there's immunization and there's coverage. So there's no point in us manufacturing fancy vaccines, only to find that the cold chain is not handled properly or that we're not getting to the children that we need to get to. And ultimately, I think that's our big drive. And with that, then we then find that we have a lot more intimate relationship with our customer, at the moment being the public sector more so than anything else. So yes, there's an industrial part, there's a commercial side, but ultimately we're all working towards immunization. And I think COVID has probably highlighted a lot more of what the impact of vaccines will hopefully prove to be going forward.
Thank you, Morena. As we are running to a close of the session, I would like to pose a question for you all to just end off with. We had another question asking for who has been your specific stakeholders or funders that has helped you. So maybe just to name who has been that key stakeholder that you ran to that took you the furthest in your journey. And if you have any closing advice for up and coming entrepreneurs, this is your time to just drop some for your insights as well. Zule, let's go first. Keep it brief and then we'll hopefully close up on time. Thanks, guys.
We've been lucky enough to be involved with with accelerators that are very supportive, and one specific one is Founders Factory Africa, and they are all about founders and creating solutions with you. So that's been a great support to us. So they are also a stakeholder in our journey, and I would say they've been really one of the big ones. And I look forward to what the next parts of our journey look like with our new funders that came on board. As I mentioned, E Squared and Josie Angels, and you know, any advice is just the same. Keep going. If you believe in what it is you're doing and it's a solution that people need, keep going. You'll find the right people if it's right.
Thank you, William.
Yeah, something that the one that's made the most difference recently is the DRK Foundation. They're based in the United States, but they invest in African companies making a difference. And they gave us a full-time board member who's been instrumental in helping me grow as well as the company. And in terms of any advice, I would just say if someone's working in the space, call us. Join the ecosystem and we have to support each other. It's not an easy environment, so welcome to the club and let's make some friends.
Morena?
Okay. Yeah, so we have 3 sets of stakeholders that I always say, if it wasn't for them, I don't think Biovac would be where it is. And those are the same stakeholders that we still need going forward. So one is our people that have bet for the company. You know, that we have people that have just been there. And without them, we can't attract tech transfer partners, because somebody needs to say, I'm going to put my expensive product with you guys as South Africans. You know, who am I going to put my products? You know, who's going to be handling my product? So I think our staff members have been absolutely valuable and very loyal and very patient with us. So the partners have obviously also needed to bet, but bet against, you know, the people that will handle that product. So we have large companies that have been very supportive of us and who've actually bet on a startup, you know. And then the third is on the finance side, you know, for us, private equity and venture capital doesn't work for our model. We need 15, 20, 30-year type of funding. And for that, because it's a very public health focused type of funding, we typically attract development finance institutions. So the likes of the Industrial Development Corporation have come to the party. So those 3 parties, you know, the finance cannot work without having tech transfer partners. The tech transfer partners need the people. So that 3, you know, always work in unison. You know, if one falls off, you know, the whole thing goes belly up. Yeah. So for me, those are the people that have made Biovac tick.
Thank you very much, everyone. That brings us to the close of this session. And hopefully you guys have taken some insights and learnings from the experts in the field. And I'm sure there are many more. But I welcome your openness and sharing your journeys with us today, and also your availability to the sector and the whole ecosystem to make yourselves and your knowledge and your stories available to all of them. So William, thank you for that. Call us if you need help, advice, and I'm sure to share. So if you've got any questions following this session that you would like to reach out to the speakers, you are welcome to contact me directly and I'll put you in contact with them. Thank you all very much for joining the session, and we wish you a pleasant Cape Health Tech week further.